and can't wait to meet your followers. As I think a lot of us are very concerned about, any sort of government intervention in our decisions as human beings. I'm a mom of a 9-year-old, and I often say in my role, I got to travel the world with President Obama. So I got to fly over Petra and King Abdullah's helicopter. I got to fly into, Buckingham Palace with President Obama to meet the Queen. And I got to see Nelson Mandela's prison cell with the first Black president of the United States. The most awesome thing I ever did was have my child. And I think that having a child is the most extraordinary thing you can ever do in your life. In Texas right now, what they just did with Senate Bill 8 is they essentially banned abortion, which means that a woman, even regardless of if she's raped, if it's incest, she can't get an abortion after 6 weeks. When I was pregnant, your 6 weeks actually starts at your first menstrual cycle. So it's very soon after you would be pregnant. So in most cases, women in Texas will no longer be able to get an abortion. And the way that it's done is designed to get around the Supreme Court ruling Roe v. Wade. So what they did was they essentially made it, instead of the government enforcing it, they're having it enforced by basically your peers. So say, you have a nosy neighbor who is bored and has nothing better to do than, watch over what Amelie is doing. And I suspect that, you may have even told someone that they would have the right to an abortion. I can sue you. And I can sue you in my residence if I'm in a more conservative district than you are. So let's say someone in Austin, I know they went to school and they're in Austin, but I know that they got an abortion. I could sue them in Lubbock. And so the court in Lubbock will hear this case and will say, you know what, you're right. And then it'll say, I am owed not only $10,000 from whoever it is, even the Uber driver who would take someone to an abortion. I could get that, plus I could get damages, which means I'd have to pay all the court fees, which can be very expensive. So essentially, through this, they have overturned Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, let it go into law. It was set to go into law September 1st. It has now gone into law. And so now any woman who is in Texas who tries to seek an abortion after 6 weeks could be subject to this civil litigation.
Yeah, and I really do want to get into Roe v. Wade, so I want to save that for the end, because I want to hear your thoughts about whether that is going to be maintained throughout the next year or so. But I do want to talk about this bill in specific and who is really being affected. Are there certain minority groups that are going to face disproportionate consequences?
Abortion will always be available to those who have means, right? Yeah. So those who are the wealthiest in this country will always be able to get an abortion. Right. The people who are most affected is the women who are have the least resources. Right. So even when Roe v. Wade was taken to court, it was a woman who was poor who couldn't get an abortion in Texas. That was the case. Norma was the woman who went to court to try to get this right. And so essentially what they've done is, again, put in barriers to access. So, I was a waitress in Galesburg, Illinois, my hometown. And this kind of action is going to affect the women who I waitress with the most. And that is setting people up for an unfair journey, because you aren't going to be able to overcome that economic situation. I was really lucky that I had my son when I was 30, when I was at a place in my career that I felt ready for him. And, he also benefits from that. So the thing about this is, we don't know the circumstances of these women and the men who are involved. We don't know their circumstances. But now the government has made it not only so that the government can intervene, but my nosy neighbor can actually intervene in my most personal decision to welcome a child into this world. And it's outrageous. We should all be outraged.
And I mean, I'm completely with you. I think that's the scariest part for me is imagining how many women are going to turn to other more unsafe measures to get these abortions, because statistically criminalizing abortion does not reduce the number of abortions. So in my mind, I'm thinking about all the women who are going to lead to, or turn to really unsafe measures to get these abortions. And with the healthcare that we have in America, they're not, if there are horrible consequences, like risks and health consequences to that decision, then they won't be insured, and healthcare costs are going to be unimaginable, and it's really scary. So given that abortions, when they're criminalized, are not reduced, what is the motive behind this? Because it is not pro-life.
No, it's not. And look, I started by saying, when you have a child, it's like you wear your heart on your sleeve. It is truly the most incredible journey. And, I think we have so many things we need to do for the children in this country so that they have every opportunity to thrive in the United States of America and bring their human capital to our economy. Right now, what we're seeing is it's a long history since 1973 of the Heritage Foundation and others really working to make this a political issue, because it's really sensitive, right? I mean, like I just described, when you have a child, you know what it's like. And it's just, you get a lot of people who can't imagine the decision of someone to have an abortion. So what they do is they say, oh, we're going to outlaw it, right? Well, outlawing it actually does nothing to disincentivize someone who's desperate from seeking what they, seeking the venue that they need for an abortion. And in many cases, that ends up, especially when it's illegal, being extraordinarily challenging and leading to women's deaths. In fact, in Ireland, if you just looked at Ireland, recently had this come up for a vote because women were dying because they had no access to abortion. And so we're going to see, women who are in a desperate situation already. Maybe it's because they are, raped, or they are a victim of incest, and they know that they cannot seek an abortion legally. They are going to seek a different kind of abortion. And what's going to happen is we're going to see deaths increase. We're going to see this population get more vulnerable. We know that the ways to decrease abortion is giving educational resources to men and women about, sex ed. I told you, Amelie, my parents had a child and gave him up for adoption when they were in their teenage years. And it's the most painful thing. My mom didn't know, at the time she was in a Catholic school, she didn't know what she was doing having sex.
Yeah.
Had she had the ability to know what she was doing, she would have been more conscious about that decision. And then going into, birth control, and then if you want to give people resources to actually care for that child, that is the hugest aid to a woman who undoubtedly wants to have that child, or is interested in having a child at some point in time. And frankly, it's no one else's business what she's going to do. And so, we've really got to be reevaluating ourselves for this kind of legislation, called a heartbeat bill. And I said, I posted something on Instagram. I was on a panel of all men talking about this. And I was so mad because, people were talking about heartbeat, and I have been on a sonogram table. My husband and I had a miscarriage very publicly because President Obama even knew that we were expecting. We had told everybody, and it was after 12 weeks. And we found out that the heart stopped beating. And it was the most, I cried gut-wrenching tears. And I called my mom, who had lost a child because she had given up for adoption. And she cried with me. And nobody else needs to be involved in that
Yeah.
than the people who are part of that decision, because they're your family, they're your friends, they're your support group. The government and your nosy neighbor can stay the hell out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
it's I fear that this is only the beginning. You know, I think there was another bill introduced. I don't exactly remember the state. Was it like Missouri, or there's some other?
there's
Sorry.
going to be multiple states that try
Yeah.
to do the same exact thing. And you know, the shame is they're going to have multiple states now. The Democrats are going to put into place in different states, because this is all political, you know, it's like chess.
Yeah.
They're going to put into place, like, if I'm a nosy neighbor, I can sue my neighbor for not wearing a mask or something like that, which is ridiculous, right? But the truth is that's what they're going to do to try to get the Supreme Court to say this is illegal legislation. And the truth is, already with the laws we have on the books across the United States, it's way too difficult to get an abortion. So the things that we need to do to make sure that we can get an abortion, look, I am certain that some of your audience is Republicans, and that's fine. My family are Republicans. Call your Republicans, call the Republican Party, and tell them that they need to stay out of women's most important decisions of family planning. They need to start focusing on, in Texas, the things that matter are energy security. You know, we had so many people out of power because of the storm. They need to focus on building our future for our inclusive economy. They need to focus on the tax code and making it fair for small businesses. And they need to stop throwing around these hot button issues like the lie of, you know, anyone registering to vote who didn't register to vote, because that's a lie. And it's like, you know, I can file my taxes online, but I can't register to vote online in Texas. This is outrageous. You know, we need smart government. I don't care, Republican or Democrat, but I will say right now, in Texas, we had 2 Democrats did vote for this bill. They should be called and they should be shamed.
Yeah.
Every single Republican voted for this. They should be called. They should be shamed. Other states are going to have this pop up. At the national level, we need to get the Senate that is going to support the Democratic Congress's bill saying that abortion should be legal, safe and legal in every state without any, you know, holds barred. Because the truth is, they don't want us legislating, you know, either requiring or not requiring vasectomies. They don't want us legislating whether they can have access to, you know, Viagra. They don't want us legislating half of the things that affect male bodies. So stay out of our bodies.
And calls, I feel like for everyone watching this, like, it seems like calling your representatives may not mean like much, but because honestly, like, so little people call, your call can mean so much and can make such an impactful difference.
It can.
And beyond calling, though, what else can we do?
You know, so at the state government level, the calls are not only meaningful, they go directly to a person. I was in Kansas. I worked with Kathleen Sebelius when she was governor, and we got the constituent services calls. So when you call into Texas and you call the legislature, you're going to get a person. So call into Texas. You should absolutely do that. You should absolutely, you know, this is the thing, this technology generation, this newest generation, like, we know we don't want an A choice or a B choice. We want the best choice. We want people to actually be working on government. We want people to be working on, you know, legislation that matters for climate change, for our futures, for clean water, for clean technology. Call them and tell them to focus on governing.
Sorry, there's an airplane flying overhead.
No, I know.
I
love your outside setup. You're so adorable. We have to do this because we've got to call. We've got to, you know, and then at the end of the day, unfortunately, the Republican Party in this issue is held hostage by interest groups, and so they are not largely going to come away from this. You know, anti-choice, pro-life. It's really anti-choice because The truth is, if we want to support life, there's lots of ways we can do it.
Yep.
But if they want to come away from that anti-choice perspective, it's going to take like actually empowering some of the women in their systems who have been, have been pro-choice. And the problem is they actually do a lot to diminish those voices. So for now, we're going to have to elect a Senate that has Republicans, and we're going to have to empower people in local state governments to actually run for office. Good people should be running for office. And Amelie, you and I talked about this weekend.
Yeah.
I think we need more people to run for office. We need good people to run for office. And I can't tell you, like, they say women have to be asked 7 times to run for office. Over the course of time, I think we're still at like 7% of the representation in the US. Women need to run for office. They need to win, and they need to start having a bigger role at the table when we're legislating our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to talk about Roe v. Wade and about the future of Roe v. Wade, because I was reading something this morning and it was quite devastating. And it was like a New York Times article or something like that. And it basically was like the future of Roe v. Wade in the next year is really like dark. It seems like Roe v. Wade will be overturned given the 3 new Supreme Court justices that were put in place over the past 4 years, and it looks grim. So what do you think?
I think that over the last 20 years, different state legislatures have cut back so much on access and put up so many barriers that Roe v. Wade has been slowly but surely fading for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I think that if we want to make a difference, we need to join together, and we need to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
We need to we need to get a Senate that's not going to hold our Supreme Court justices hostage. I get so upset about this idea of court packing. Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate, the head Senate Republican, now the minority leader. When he was a majority leader, when President Obama was in office, he held hostage Supreme Court seat because he said, oh, the voters need to, vote on this.
Yep.
And then when he had the same exact situation when the president was up for election, he pushed through rapidly a Supreme Court justice so that they could have the majority. That is holding hostage a Supreme Court. And that is, a Supreme Court is not supposed to be political. The Supreme Court is supposed to, just look at the will of the legislation, the will of the people, the will of the moment of, what's coming to them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we now have a very political Supreme Court because Mitch McConnell has packed it.
Yeah.
We need to reconsider that. But who has more control is if we pass and we get a Democratic Senate and we get a Democratic Congress, we can change this because we can change the law. Yeah. So the other thing that we could do is we could actually look at a constitutional amendment. And we've also talked about the fact that back, before both of us had the right to be involved in these conversations, they were looking at an equal rights amendment for women's equality under the U.S. Constitution. And the truth is today, we still do not have an equal rights amendment. We still do not have equality under the Constitution. Yeah. And we need to have not only equality, but we need to have the right to our own decisions when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, this conversation is incredible, and I don't want it to end. I have one more question though, because I want to be respectful of your time. And this is just something I've thought about throughout our conversation, and it's the idea that if Texas was able to finagle the language of a bill to kind of surpass constitutional rulings, what does that mean for? Not what does that mean, but can this affect the way that states now navigate through other Supreme Court rulings like same-sex marriage if they, have cunning statutory language?
Yeah, no, that's the problem. It was a man talking to another man about how they could go around this Supreme Court ruling. And it's sick. And it sets up a situation where we're going to see a lot of rights chipped away at for people. And that matters. It matters It matters to you and I. It matters to our community. And so, I thought there were too many lawyers. And, this emphasizes there are so many lawyers who are going to try to take away our rights.
Yeah.
We need to, as a people, what can we do to fight back is we can change this dynamic by electing people who are going to protect our rights.
Yeah.
And, right now, I'm afraid in the lost the right to abortion in Texas, and it matters Roe v. Wade because that's actually where Norma was from,
Yeah.
Texas. It's like harkens back to her she right to that abortion. Normally, she had that child, was forever. And actually, there's a great documentary, aka Jane, that looks at her life because she was used eventually by the far extreme right. Even they say in it, they say we used her and she used us, and it's like so sick. It's so sick. So we got to
Yeah.
change it.
It's really horrible, and I hope that people understand like the severity of what's going on right now. Even if you don't live in Texas and it's not affecting you at all, like eventually it will.
Yeah.
And it will extend beyond just abortion, and it's very scary, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this. I hope everyone learned a little bit of something. Throughout the rest of the day I'm going to be posting numbers that you can call to
Yeah.
hold your representatives accountable, especially in Texas. But thank you so much for joining. You are incredible, and I'll reach out to you after this so we can plan more. But you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on and having this incredible discussion with me.
You're incredible, and I can't wait for all of your followers to listen to this and then to take action, because the truth is, I've been there when everything looks impossible, and I've been there when everybody told me I was crazy to work for a little, known senator from the state of Illinois to run for president, and I saw change up close, and it's going to take a lot more of us working together to change this law and to change our future. So thank you for everything you do. I am so grateful to you for everything.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.